What's up, movement world? Sunday ramblings here. I'm on the way over to my wife's family's pumpkin farm. Yes, they own a pumpkin farm to help out. And I'm always thinking about information and movement and questions that seem to be circulating in the community. And one right now is the need for isolated practice. Now, there's so many reasons we don't want to do this, but one of them that's pointed out very nicely in the Constraints-Led Approach book with our friends Ian, Keith, Danny, and Will is that breaking up a movement into component parts for isolated practice fails to recognize that the components of that multi-articular system are codependent on one another for successful performance. So if we're breaking up these movements and expecting them to then emerge in the performance environment, it's not taking into account the information that flows through that system, that essentially allows for that system to self-organize and the components of that system to adapt and adjust to one another. So what do we need to do instead? We want to scale that information. Okay, we want to reduce the complexity, or we essentially want to simplify the movement, but not decompose the movement and break it up and expect it to then just piece itself back together. So we can do this in a number of ways. But I'll give you an example in baseball. Rather than having this broken up movement whenever you're having an athlete hit off of a tee or use PVC pipes and stop their movement, we want that movement to be able to self-organize together. So let's still have a traveling ball. We can just slow the speed down. We can shorten the distance down. We can enlarge the ball. We can increase or reduce the weight of the bat. There are so many different things that we can do utilizing a constraints-led approach to essentially simplify the movement. We can make sure there's no one around. That way the athlete doesn't have that extra key performance inhibitor of anxiety and pressure, while still keeping the movement coupled and having live action, or essentially having a pitcher throw to a hitter. That way they can organize their movement throughout that ball spin, or picking up the ball spin, the arm slot, the body angle and orientation of the pitcher. But you could increase the size of the ball, or like I said, slow it down, or shorten the distance, or change the location of the ball and move it around the plate a little bit, but not to the point to where it is essentially throwing at its highest velocity, trying to strike the batter out each time with teammates around on a regular basis, or multiple teammates or opponents on the field at any given time. And that's all important, and we can scale that complexity at certain times in training, but we want to keep this movement and the information that the movement is essentially coupling to together. And the reason why we want to do that and the need for that is we want to have good functionality, and we want the information that's available for pickup in that practice setting to be similar to what it's going to be like in the game for functional movement to emerge. And so essentially for the Sunday ramblings, scale the information by reducing the complexity, but don't break up the movement into component parts and expect that it's going to essentially just piece itself back together. Because if that's the case, then we're expecting this exists somewhere just isolated in the brain somewhere. And from an ecological point of view, we don't believe that that's the case. We believe that the movements is always adapting, and the information that's flowing through the system is helping that system to self-organize. And then we're just continually adapting to our performance environment. And so Sunday ramblings, hopefully this has been beneficial for you. We'll talk to you guys soon.